Good morning, happy new work week. So we have to talk urgently because Friday Mama Pet finally announced what the holiday collection is going to contain, and I hadn't had time to feel and I have wanted to share my thoughts with you so badly, but I resisted the urge to do it on Instagram because I felt like we need to talk about this more extensively, and what a better way than just talk about it in a get ready with me style. It's not really going to be a pet pairing because I'm just going to use one of my quads, but we are going to chat about the new Celestial Odyssey collection, which is why I'm also not really going to mention the products that I'm using, except for when it's relevant. In case you have questions about any of the base products, just shoot me a comment and I'll get back at you. But let's talk about the holiday collection, shall we? So, it's so much more epic, well, expectedly more epic than we thought, but honestly I didn't expect her to like show everything so early, because last year she did something similar because she did announce a similar sized palette for the first time ever, the Mega Celestial Divinity palette, which was a, I don't know, 18 pan palette or something for $78. People lost their shit, and then she brought that out, I want to say in September, and the rest of the collection only released or was teased a little bit later. But the new collection is going to contain another Mothership mega palette, which is going to be called the Celestial Odyssey. We're going to talk about each of the individual products in a bit and what I think about them, but I just wanted to let you know now, in case you missed the memo, what the collection contains. It's also going to contain 2 new look squads. It's going to contain 2 trios containing blush and highlight. It's going to contain 2 balms, boring, and there will also be a new single highlighter. So let's start with the thing that I'm actually the most excited about, which is the new Mothership Mega Celestial Odyssey palette. It's going to be another one of those very big sized palettes that come in the cardboard packaging, contain like a number of shades. They don't contain any of her like special formula shades, and they are and it's going to be again $78. I did not get, by the way, maybe I'm just going to throw that in now, I did not get the Celestial Divinity palette, so the Mega Mothership from last year, because while I was excited very much for everyone who missed on the Star Wars palettes, I do already have the Dark Star palette, and I had several shades from the C-3PO palette, and in fact Bia is going to share her C-3PO palette with me because she bought the Mega Mothership, so I didn't need this many repeats in my life. I was just very happy for everyone who wanted to try Pat McGrath at a more affordable price point and also missed on the Star Wars palettes, because the 2 Star Wars palettes were basically featured in that Mega Mothership, and there were 6 new shades debuted in there, but they were, you know, similar enough to things we've already seen that I wasn't actually super tempted. Like, I was never really tempted by that palette, so I was happy for everyone else, but I skipped on it and I didn't purchase it. This year, on the other hand, I think the palette looks really fun. With that, I want to throw in that while I very much will enjoy and I will purchase a bunch of the things from the holiday collection, if you're someone who is always mad that Pat is releasing the same thing over and over again, you're probably going to be pretty mad about this release as well, because she's not releasing anything unseen or unheard of before. She's giving us the types of shades that we have come to expect of her in new rearrangements, probably with new undertones, but it's not like we're getting something completely different. And at this point, honestly, can we really get something that different, because all the colors have been done and redone? I do hope for something completely new maybe next year, but for now she's giving us relatively familiar things. So if you have already a number of Pat McGrath products, then don't go out and buy the Mega Mothership because it's going to give you a bunch of new things. It's not going to give you a bunch of new things, it just looks really fun because it looks quite colorful. It looks like there are a number of different types of shades. Of course, there is pinks, there's golds, there is an orange, there are some blues and greens. So I think overall as a color story, this palette looks really fun. So I will buy it for that, but not with the expectation that it's going to give me something I don't already have. For instance, there is a shade in there which looks very much like Gold Standard. She hasn't called it Gold Standard, but when it comes here and we swatch it, it's probably not going to be too different from Gold Standard. I'm sure that those of you who are collectors of Pat McGrath and who have a little bit of the same as I do, which is like blind dedication and loyalty to the brand, are going to purchase this palette. You're really going to enjoy it. But for those of you who are a bit more critical about her releases, you are probably going to be a tiny bit disappointed that we are getting things that we've already seen before. I wanted to throw just two things about that mega palette. It does contain a couple of repeats, especially if you own her singles, because from what I understand, this palette is going to feature the shades Rose Venus and Corrupt Copper, which were part of her Idols collection. They were never part of a palette before, and in case you are curious which shades I'm referring to, because I have both of them, let me just show them to you. There is one more repeat that comes from the Golden Opulence collection, but I don't have the Golden Opulence palette, so for me that's going to be a new shade. So technically I'm personally only getting, I think, 2 repeats. But this is the shade Rose Venus. Rose Venus, if you don't have it, is just one of the most beautiful neutrals you can ever imagine. It is impactful, it has a bit of that, like that rosy coppery tone to it. And the shade Corrupt Copper must be one of the most beautiful, like, orange eyeshadows that I've ever seen. It's really vibrant, it has a beautiful, like, golden sheen going onto it. It's not a punchy metallic, it's more of like a satin, but it is just so beautiful and so dimensional. I absolutely love it. Another thing that I noticed about this mega palette is that it seems to be debuting a new formula from Pat McGrath, because I saw on the description that there are a couple of shades which have the 24 karat description in terms of their like finish, and I don't think we've seen that from Pat before, so I'm very curious what that is. Probably it's going to be something very high shine and very high sparkle, and I'm wondering whether the Rosefire Nectar shade from Voyeuristic Vixen was maybe in that formula. Anyway, the only thing I hate with a fucking passion about that palette is that it has a fucking hole in the middle of it. Like, there is the logo of Pat McGrath right in the smack middle of the palette, and it makes no sense to me. Why would you just not put another eyeshadow in there? I don't get it. The only thing I can imagine is that something went wrong with the eyeshadow that was supposed to be in the smack middle of the palette, and they were like, fuck, what are we gonna do? Let's just smack the logo right in there. So other than that, I can't really explain why there is a hole in the palette. But I am going to be getting it. I think it's really exciting. That palette is going to be the first thing to launch. It's going to be launched this Thursday, whereas the rest of the collection will probably come later, but I can't be sure because she hasn't really been very clear about what exactly will be released coming Thursday, but I think it's only going to be the Mega Mothership palette. I need to take a breath, I'm talking too fast. Now, another part of the collection that I think is an incredibly smart release on her side, and I'm really on board for it, are the blush highlighter trios. She's releasing 2 of them, one which is a little bit lighter and one which is a little bit deeper. The lighter one contains they don't contain any new blush shades, by the way. They're all part of the Divine Blush collection, so if you were like me and you were like, oh my god, am I going to miss on some new shades? You're not. The lighter trio contains Divine Rose, Desert Orchid, and the Golden Nectar, sorry, highlighter. So I'm going to demo my favorite Desert Orchid for you. I own 4 blushes from Pat, so I am not going to be getting any of those trios, but I am so happy for everyone who wants to try her blushes at a more affordable, I don't know how much these are going to be, but probably cheaper than if you would buy them individually. And it just looks so cute in the trio, and it's very, you know, convenient to have like that. So the lighter palette, as I said, contains my favorite blush shade from Pat, which is the shade Desert Orchid. I love all of my blushes from Pat McGrath, and most of all I want to say that this is my favorite blush release of the year, and these are some of my favorite blushes in my collection. I really enjoy my Nabla Skin Glazing formula, but with that said, the Skin Glazing formula is very limited in terms of a shade range. While I do find Pat's blushes quite pink leaning, I do think she has a bit more variety in terms of the undertones, and Desert Orchid is absolutely gorgeous. I'm now going to also demo the highlighter for you that comes with the lighter palette, which is, like I said, the shade Golden Nectar, which was again part of her Divine Blush collection. I was not quite sure about this highlighter when it first released, because it seemed like it's just, you know, your regular powder. It wasn't one of her baked gelays. It looked a little bit deep on my skin tone. And then it ended up being one of my favorite highlighters in my collection. I use it all the fucking time. The formula on this highlighter truly is absolutely beautiful. And while it's still maybe a little too dark for me, meaning that if you're a lighter skin tone than me, this is going to be probably quite deep for you, I think if you go with a very, very light hand and you blend it out, you might be able to pull it off, and it's a gorgeous, stunning highlighter. So this is what you're getting in the lighter trio. In the deeper trio, I only own one of the blushes again, the shade Paradise Venus. That one looks beautiful on people of a deeper skin tone. It has that gorgeous terracotta tone to it. There is another shade, I think, which is the shade Love Struck. And in there you're getting a deeper version of Golden Nectar. Now the item in the collection that I'm the most unsure about is the single highlighter, because in the past year I have bought 3, like pretty much all of the single highlighters that Pat has released, and I'm like, do I really need another single highlighter from Pat McGrath? I most absolutely do not. However, the new highlighter is actually in her baked gelée formula, and if you know anything about my preference for finishes in like products for your complexion, baked gelée is one of my favorites. So I think I estimate the chances of me buying that highlighter about 90%. Also the embossing on it, the print, that crown, and like the packaging, which has a little bit of like a golden element to it, I'm probably not going to be able to resist that highlighter. So the Mega Palette and the highlighter so far I'm for sure getting. And now, since we're moving into the eyes, let's talk about the other part of the collection, which I found the most confusing, which is her quads. She's releasing 2 Luxe quads, and when I saw the promo images, like the promo video she released, the teaser video last Friday, I took a snapshot and I was like, wait, why does one of these quads look exactly like Iconic Illumination? Because it had like a champagne shade, like a red burgundy shade, a bit of a bronzier shade, and a bit of like a deeper brown shade. So I was convinced that she's re-releasing Iconic Illumination, and I thought, oh, well, that's fun for people who don't have Iconic Illumination, but I do. And then later that day I saw the image from Trend Mode, which was completely different from the one that was in the video. And it basically looked more like the quad we're going to use today, which is another one of my favorites, but that is the quad from last year's collection, which is Interstellar Icon, except for it doesn't contain a purple, but it contains like a matte burgundy, from what I can tell. There is again something with like a blue duochrome. It seems like it's a different shade, but that being said, it's very much in the spirit of Interstellar Icon, so I'm probably 99% going to get both quads, but they are not something super new in terms of their shade selection. The other quad looks a lot like Voyeuristic Vixen, but with slightly different shades. So she hasn't, to my knowledge, please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to start, by the way, off with the shade Blue Blood, which is the deep purple. I'm just going to put that right here into my outer corner and then start blending that through my crease. But from what I understand, she has not quite said exactly what the shades in the quads are going to be, so I'm still very, very curious if any of those are going to be repeats from other collections. I am going to get both. I'm sure that blue duochrome shade is going to be sick beautiful. I also know she can make gorgeous neutrals with a lot of sparkle to them, so I am going to get that quad and I'm probably really going to enjoy it. Same for the more like rosier Voyeuristic Vixen type quad. It's again not something that we have never seen before from Pat, but it is, you know, what you would expect of her for a holiday collection, and I won't complain because I think unless I've seen it live I can't really speak too much about it. And that added quite some drama onto the look. Now I'm going to grab the Intensifies wand from Pat and I'm going to smack that on the like part of my lid which doesn't contain any eyeshadow, and over top of that I'm going to apply one of my favorite shades in this palette. Yes, I like Hypnotic, but Golden Polaris does something for me. I'm just going to use my fingers for that. I've mentioned this shade on so many occasions. It looks so unassuming in the pan and it just comes to life when you put it on your eyelids. Look how beautiful. And I'm just going to apply that everywhere, including in my inner corner, trying to not, you know, be too sloppy about it. And of course the look wouldn't be complete if we didn't apply a little bit of Hypnotique, so the blue purpley duochrome somewhere. So I'm going to pop that here a bit over top of Blue Blood, and then lightly over top of Golden Polaris, because I don't want to take too much away from Golden Polaris. It's such a beautiful shade, but I think Blue Blood gives a beautiful depth to Hypnotique. So, and I'm just going to kind of use my finger to melt everything together. So my overall thoughts on the collection are, I think it is an incredibly smart move on her side to release another one of those Mega Mothership palettes, because more people can afford to buy those. I'm going to take again Blue Blood and run it here on the outer part of my lashes. I think the trio blush palettes are another really smart move on her side, because it's a great way to introduce the blushes to people who didn't buy them on the initial release and are going to be tempted much more now, because it's probably going to come at a more affordable price point. Plus, you know, it's really fun to have two blushes and a highlighter instead of just buying all the products separately. Like I said, the lip balms, who even buys these lip balms? I don't know anyone who's bought these lip balms. And finally, the quads and the highlighter. I think the highlighter, you know, is always a good release for a holiday collection, because, you know, when else would people want to be super bling bling but the holidays? I'm going to now take, by the way, Hypnotique and apply that on the rest of my lower lash line. The two quads, yeah, I'm not disappointed, but I'm also not like jumping with joy and anticipation, because I think they're something that I'm super excited about. Maybe I will change my mind when I see them live. Maybe in real life they're going to be so much more spectacular. I always hope for that, and I think I almost always get that feeling with her products, that on photos they don't excite me much, and then in real life they always exceed my expectations. Hopefully that's going to be the case with the quads as well. It's curious to me that so many people have been begging her to release quads with the like Blitz VR and Astro Shades formulas again, but she hasn't really done that. She only did that once in 2018, and since then she's been releasing the Luxe quads, which are slightly cheaper than the quads with the special shades, and I wonder whether that's the reason, whether these quads just didn't sell as well because they're a bit more expensive, and because some people feel a bit more uncomfortable with that glitzy formula because it's just too much for them on the daily. I really wonder what the reason is, because I've heard a lot of people who have really wanted to have quads of her like Blitz shades only for the past several years. Well, that was far too much rambling for a Monday morning. Now I feel tired. I feel like I should just like go back to bed instead of to work. But I need to get to work, so I will shut up and I will let you do the rest of the talking. Let me know what you think about the collection. What are you picking up from it? What are your overall thoughts? Are you happy? Are you disappointed? Are you meh? Let's chat about it. And of course, as usual, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!